Today, I wanted to go over two new products that I've created for you to use. The first is an ebook, and the second is a companion workbook to accompany that ebook. And they're both on the topics of scaling recipes up and down and how to calculate pan volumes. This is a topic that a lot of recipe developers encourage you not to explore. Many recipes will tell you not to scale up or down a recipe and not to fiddle with it, but I'm here to teach you how you can anyways. So this new ebook will guide you through the process of scaling recipes up and down, but it's also going to go through the reasons why recipe developers tell you not to tackle this. They tell you not to do this math, and they tell you it's going to get messed up, which does happen sometimes, but I've set out a step-by-step process for you to follow so that you can be successful at increasing and decreasing batch sizes, swapping cake pans for smaller to bigger cake pan or bigger to smaller cake pan, and to allow you to sort of become more flexible in the kitchen with your baking recipes so that you don't have to just stick to making a recipe that makes 12 dozen cookies. Maybe you don't want to make 12 dozen cookies and you only want 6. So I'm going to go through all the math and the steps in the process to scale a recipe up or down. We're going to go through the tools that you need in order to do that math and to scale a recipe up and down. I'm going to give you some examples of the math that you have to do. I'm going to go through a cookie recipe that we're going to scale down and a cake recipe that we're going to scale up. And I'm going to try to illustrate all those things that you have to consider when you're doing this math. I've also included a section going through those tricky geometry equations that most of us have not explored in a very long time. We have not applied these equations for calculating the volumes of three-dimensional objects in a long time. And so I go through all of those equations, helping you understand which dimensions you need to consider in the equations and how to calculate the pan volume if you only have the numbers and you don't have the pan in your possession. We're also going to look at the technique that you will use to split an egg in two. So if you have a whole egg that is an egg white and an egg yolk that's called for in a recipe, if you're scaling down that recipe, let's say you're halving the recipe, you will need to split that egg in two, and you will need to sort of grab equal parts of the egg white and the egg yolk. So we're going to go through that step-by-step process that you will need to do in order to divide an egg into two equal parts. Now, if math is not your forte and you don't love using a calculator, I have created a set of spreadsheets that will do the math for you. Of course, you still need to do a minimum of effort, that is to measure your pans or seek out the pan dimensions like on Amazon or on the manufacturer's website. And then with these spreadsheets, you can input the dimensions of a pan and it will spit out the volume for you. And then if you input the dimensions of two pans, let's say a square pan with straight edges and a round pan with sloped edges, it will then calculate a conversion factor for you, and then you can use that conversion factor to scale up or down a recipe. I've also created a spreadsheet to calculate a conversion factor if you already know your pan volumes. Let's say you invested in that pan volume conversion chart that I had created a few years ago for you. You already know the pan volumes of a 6-inch pan versus a 9-inch pan. You can input those values into the calculator and it will spit out a conversion factor for you. Then if you take that conversion factor and you put it into the recipe calculator along with your ingredients and the quantities, the spreadsheet will do the math for you and it will scale up or down your recipe for you. And you will be left with the quantities that you need to measure in order to make your modified batch size. I created the ebook and the companion workbook in order to answer those questions that many of you have actually been emailing me over the last few years. You've been emailing me because you want to change the batch size of a recipe, change the yield, use different cake pans, and you've had trouble with the math. And sometimes I've responded and tried to explain my logic, but there's only so much you can do in an email. So I created the ebook and the spreadsheets to help you do that math on your own and hopefully to demystify scaling recipes up and down, because it's absolutely doable. Many recipe developers and professional bakers do this type of math every day, all the time, and they are successful at it. And I'm hoping that you will be successful too. If you'd like to purchase a copy of the ebook and the companion workbook, the bundle is on sale right now. You can go to bakeschool.com/shop and you will see a button to buy it now or to get more info. You can also visit learn.bakeschool.com to purchase your copies today.